Hey everybody, this is Zemanon, coach of the Detroit Solgaleo. We have our week 1 match against Marolt. He is a European player, so that is pretty cool to have going across. I know we're like completely international. There's Australian people, American people all over Europe. So the LDL League is pretty fun. Global Pokemon League, pretty much. But we are going to do post commentary for our first match of the season against Marolt. And as I can just give you his whole team here. So you see the 6 he brought, but as a whole, he has Manaphy, Togekiss, Arcanine, Bronzong, Crabominable, Audino, Mega Ampharos, Amoongus, Donphan, Tyranitar, and Shelmet. I'm not sure what the Shelmet's for, but I do appreciate that he drafted it. So going into, prepping for this match, I felt like he wasn't going to bring Mega Ampharos since I have 2 fairies in Sylveon and Diancie. And his Z users are Arcanine and Bronzong. So those are his only options. As my Z users are Diancie and Celebi. So if you look at my team, I didn't bring Celebi this week. I didn't think it had that good of a matchup. It hit pretty much Manaphy and nothing else. Got beat by Arcanine, got beat by T-Tar, got beat by Amoongus, So I wasn't really excited about it, meaning by default, Diancie, I had to use it as my Z-move user this week. We're going to get into the battle, too, and I'll talk about some misplays that happened and maybe different items I should have brought or different moves I should have brought, and you will see more clearly when that happens. All right, so let's get into it. I just actually want to find out his his team name first. There we go, Slovenia Slowbros, which is actually a pretty cool logo that Marolt has. I just wanted to make sure I had the name in there for you so you guys can check out his channel and his side of the battle. Just like, just as you should. Seeing both sides is fair. But in team preview, I see the 6 he brings, and I know for a fact most of his team is actually pretty slow. So I'm expecting Trick Room from the Bronzong. I've used Bronzong in the past. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. And I definitely expect Trick Room to be coming out. Crabominable slow. Donphan is slow. Amoongus is incredibly slow. Surprised he didn't bring regular T-Tar, just to counter the fact that I had Rain. I thought maybe he would want to bring it in, get those special defense boosts, and make sure my Swampert wouldn't be able to sweep under Rain. So I kind of over-prepped for Tyranitar and under-prepped for Amoongus, and that's not gonna work out well for us. I also under-prepped for Donphan because, as you can see, I don't have any grass moves. I didn't bring Celebi. I really could have used the grass coverage, especially on like Zeraora or something. Like maybe I could have went with Grass Knot over Volt Switch, and we'll see that. But again, in team preview here, my biggest concern was if he led Manaphy with Tail Glow, and I was actually really worried about that because if I have the wrong lead, right? I lead Incineroar, I lead Diancie or something like that, and I have to switch out and he just Tail Glows, then I lose. Because he's just set up that point. And I decided to lead with Pelipper. So I was sealing my fate on turn 1. I decided if he goes Manaphy, I have the Rain set up for him. He Tail Glows, I have to switch out with Pelipper. It's going to be GG. So I was really banking that he wouldn't be aggressive and lead Manaphy. Because if he was, then I should have started Zeraora. Because now I'd have Volt Switch and Plasma Fist and everything like that. And he wouldn't be able to set up Tail Glow. So I really banked on him not leading it. And as you can see, Bronzong is the first Pokemon that he led with. So let's get into our week 1 battle. Our first battle in a YouTube draft league. So get excited. I am very excited for this match. And I'm pretty happy with the team that I did bring. I think it does cover pretty well against most of his team. But again, some flaws that we're going to get into. So I lead with Pelipper to set up the Rain, and he has Bronzong. Bronzong can go for Stealth Rocks, can go for Trick Room, you know, whatever he wants. I just wanted the rain up because I have Damp Rock. And without Tyranitar, that means I'm always going to have 8 turns of rain. So Incineroar is my automatic switch in to the Bronzong whenever it's out. You know, both Knockoff and Flare Blitz are just going to really hurt Bronzong here. So I went for the Knockoff to see if it had an item. I know Arcanine and Bronzong are his only Z-move users, but just because they are the options for it and Arcanine isn't here doesn't mean that he would necessarily be Z-move, but he is, because I didn't knock off an item, which actually hurts us because if I knocked off an item, Flare Blitz in the rain would have been enough for a knockout. Which actually kind of the detriment that we have using a fire Pokemon in the rain. But Togekiss will switch in, knock off the leftovers. And I do have Taunt, which I really wanted for maybe Manaphy, if Trick Room was up so I could stop a Tail Glow, or the Amoongus so I'd stop Spores, or Bronzong so he couldn't set up Tailwind. But I really do regret bringing Taunt. I don't think it was necessary. Fake Out probably would have been better. It was nice to taunt the Baton Pass, but it didn't really do too much as he switches out. Now this shocked me because Crabominable here is Choice Banded, and when I was running calcs it was only supposed to do like 50-ish, 60-ish to my Diancie, and he got it all the way down to, you know, under where I wouldn't even survive Stealth Rocks coming back in. So that was really caught me off guard, and I do believe that was a misplay. I believe I should have Z-moved the Crabominable that turn instead of Stealth Rocks. It's nice to have Stealth Rocks up, but the only thing that really is hurt by Stealth Rocks is Togekiss, and we actually do get a KO later on in the game because Togekiss was hit by the Stealth Rocks. But now when I Twinkle Tackle into the Bronzong, it's essentially useless. And now my Diancie is super low health. I can't switch it out. It's just not worth it. It's in a spot where I have to stay here and wait till he knocks it out, because it's not going to come back in. And all of these turns, I'm now wasting turns of rain. So Amoongus switches in to the Bronzong. I should have expected this and went for the Power Gem instead of the Moonblast, but it's not like it mattered too much, honestly. I got a special attack drop, which is nice. That was the final turn of rain. But this Amoongus is the bane of my existence. Like I just hate Amoongus. It's so bulky. It's such a problem. Like, it's one of my least favorite Pokemon in VGC. Also, anytime I see it, I just it's such a problem for me. He spores me, which is fine. I was expecting him just to Giga Drain. I didn't think he needed to spore because I wasn't switching out. So now I take that first mandatory turn of sleep, which obviously didn't matter, and then the Giga Drain finally knocks me out. So now I am down a Pokemon here as I get rid of Diancie from the overlay. This is my first time doing these where you take out the sprites as they get knocked out. Back comes the Pelipper to reset up rain, and I have Hurricane. Hurricane, I think it did like 70-something% to the Amoongus, so I thought that was a really nice switch for it. I knew he was going to switch out, though. Like, obviously he wasn't just going to sacrifice his Amoongus here, so I decided, and there's the Stealth Rock damage from the Togekiss. So I assumed a Hurricane plus Scald would probably be enough to stop anything that was coming in. Like, it would probably be enough, those two moves, to knock it out. But he breaks through Confusion here, which is unfortunate for us. That would have been really nice because we would have knocked it out. Is able to roost and get back up into the green around 75% of its health. And then Scald in the rain does the same amount as Ice Beam in the calcs, but because he roosted, he would have just been Fairy type, so it was actually better for me to Scald instead of Ice Beam that turn. Breaks out of Confusion, so only has one turn where he's potentially confused, breaks through, and then snaps out of Confusion on the next turn, which really stinks because that puts more damage onto our Pelipper, which we were going to need later. Now this Manaphy, I was like, uh-oh, I just lose. He just Tail Glows and it's over. So I accepted that he was going to knock out my Pelipper, and Pelipper survives with 2 HP thanks to liquidation from the from the Manaphy instead of Surf or something like that. And we actually do get the confusion here, which was beneficial to us. So that's why it evens out. That's why I'm not mad about the Togekiss, because it worked out. Because he hits himself with Manaphy, and then we knock it out with Hurricane. So I think that's a 50-50 play, or I think that's a 50-50 trade. We both had one advantageous confusion thanks to Hurricane. In comes Donphan, and you're going to see that Donphan is a real problem in this game, and arguably the MVP. He knocks it out with Ice Shard. I totally forgot that he gets Ice Shard, and I was like, okay, whatever. Well, he's so slow, or he's so low anyway, that he was going to knock it out with whatever attack he had. But I still didn't know its item. I didn't know if it was leftovers. I didn't know if it was Aya Papa Berry, anything like that. So he switches it out, and now my rain is running out. So I have to bring in Swampert just so I can do as much as I can while the rain is up. I think there's only 2 more turns of rain at this point. So he swaps in the Bronzong, and I get to knock it out with a Waterfall. Obviously, any attack I went for would have knocked it out. I actually really regret not having, like, you know, a boosting move on Swampert. That would have been really nice here in this situation. So Amoongus did not knock out with a Giga Drain. He did like 95% max or something. So I decided to try to Ice Punch to get it as low as I could so I'd live. But then, you know, he recovers back up, and now he's outside of Ice Punch or Earthquake range. They both did the same amount in the calcs. So it didn't matter which one I clicked. And that's the... and the Togekiss got knocked out. Sorry about that. I gotta take him out of the equation. So Earthquake brings him down to around 25%, and then Giga Drain knocks me out. This was a misplay. This whole scenario with Swampert was a misplay. The turn, like, I should have just stayed to my word. As I said in the beginning, my Incineroar is my Amoongus counter. And on the turn Amoongus came in, I should have just switched in Incineroar and taken, you know, no damage from a Giga Drain, and then I could threaten it with a knockoff or a Flare Blitz or something. So that was, you know, a very huge misplay that I understand now. I should have went back on differently. If I was able to boost the attack and then use an Ice Punch or Earthquake or something, it would have been okay. But that was a really bad play on my end. And then I gotta get rid of... Sorry, gotta get rid of my Pokemon that have been knocked out here. So... Pelipper and Swampert. Flare Blitz, honestly, I think that was smart of him, just because I took so much recoil damage from knocking Crabominal out from full, and it wasn't doing much anymore. So now it's 3-2. This Donphan is still a problem. He's not leftovers, as you can see. So I'm like, I don't know if he's Berry, like what is his item? He can't be Z-Move, right? So I switch in Sylveon because Sylveon can take an Earthquake. It does around 50%, like 45 to 50%. And I also misplayed with the Incineroar quite a few times in these upcoming turns here. So now Sylveon goes back up to around full. And I knew he was going to switch out the Bronzong into Amoongus. Like, I would have bet my life on it, and I still didn't make the play. I should have been aggressive and switched Incineroar in on this turn. Where I mistaked it was, I forgot I was a Pinch Berry on Incineroar. So when I took Stealth Rock damage, it actually would have activated my item, putting me back up to around 70 HP, and then I would have survived an Earthquake from Donphan if it came in or whatever. But now, when I wish again here, Sylveon is still asleep. And on the turn that I wished, this is another turn I should have switched into Incineroar. But what I calced was Incineroar didn't live Stealth Rocks and Sludge Bomb damage. It did, so it was it would have done like exactly the amount that it needed to knock it out. Again, forgetting that I had the Berry, which would have procced, and I easily would have lived the Sludge Bomb here. So instead, Sylveon takes the wish going all the way back up to full, and I will get all 3 turns of sleep. So I do not wake early at all. I was going for a Toxic that entire time. Literally, I was like, please, Sylveon, wake up in Toxic this Donphan, because I need to get it to around 50% so that a knockoff Flare Blitz would knock it out with Incineroar. And of course, I get the mandatory 3, or not mandatory. Of course, I get all 3 turns of sleep here. And that's going to be similar later on in the match, as you'll see. So that really is unfortunate. And on this turn, I couldn't Toxic, obviously. Amoongus is in, which is just another reason it's such a pain to me. So I just Wish. And on Sludge Bomb, he gets the poison. So now my Sylveon is on a timer. Every turn, it's taking more damage. And, you know, the leftovers only helps so much here. The only attack I had was the Hyper Voice. So I was going to do like 11% or something to Amoongus. Was not worth it. Zeraora, this is now the first time you're seeing Zeraora in our match today, because it really did not do much against his team that he brought, especially once Manaphy was knocked out. I couldn't Volt Switch because Donphan could switch in. You know, Plasma Fist isn't doing a lot to the to Amoongus here, so it is kind of just like my sack. It eats that Spore. And at this point, I just want damage. Like, I want to knock off the item because I knew Donphan was switching in here. So I had a turn of sleep, and I stay asleep. And Zeraora is also going to get the mandatory, or the full 3 turns of sleep. So he knockoffs here, and so Zeraora does barely hang on, knocking off my life orb. So I do even less damage. And then this is, again, I forgot about Ice Shard on Donphan. Here would have been a great turn because I was going to wake up that turn. I already slept for 3 turns. That would have been an excellent turn to switch in the Incineroar, take the rock damage, get the berry, and eat the Ice Shard. And then I intimidate the Donphan. He's -1. I can switch back out into the Zeraora to sacrifice it, and then be able to then bring the Incineroar back in, so Donphan, it would be -2 thanks to 2 Intimidates. But now, see, let me just take out the rest of that. Instead, Sylveon and Zeraora go down for naught, and there is the darn Stealth Rocks activating my berry that I should have done like 15 turns earlier. And that's what's going to cost me. So now that Donphan is intimidated, I just needed a crit on Flare Blitz. I was like, and it reveals the AV, meaning Sylveon would have done even less damage to it, which was a nice call on his end. But the Earthquake brings me down to where I live by 5 because of because of the Intimidate. And if Flare Blitz crits here, then I live, or then Donphan gets knocked out, and Amoongus comes back in, I Flare Blitz, GG. But no, Donphan just hangs on, and of course you can't bank on a crit, so I'm not upset about that. I mean, that would have been pretty hype if not gonna lie, that would have been pretty awesome if I did get the crit there. But Incineroar goes down, and we are going to lose to the Slowbros by a score of 2-0. So yeah, overall kind of upsetting. Like, it was a close game, and I don't think, you know, hacks didn't really play too much of a factor. Of course, it would have been huge if I did ever wake up with the Sylveon to Toxic the Donphan, because all of those turns he would have been taking toxic damage, and he didn't have leftovers. So at some point, my knockoff Flare Blitz combination from Incineroar would have been enough to knock out. Like, you saw how low Donphan got. If I just had 1 or 2 turns of Toxic on the Donphan, this might have been a different game here. So that is unfortunate. But this is why, like, Amoongus is just the bane of my existence. He's just, it's just such a phenomenal Pokemon. And I wasn't prepared for it. Like, when I was doing the team prep, I really didn't have that great of an answer except for Incineroar. And then even when I had my answer, I didn't switch it in. I made a misplay and just let my Swampert eat a Giga Drain. So yeah, overall I am disappointed, but I'm okay with the loss. Marolt played very well, and he had to fight through some things on his end too. Some cool sets like Assault Vest, Donphan, and Choice Band, Crabominable. He didn't use his Z-move on Bronzong though. And then, oh yeah, I had the other misplay with the DNC where I should have Z-moved a turn early. But we are learning. This is the Evolution League, you know. I am still pretty new to the draft format and playing battles and stuff. So hopefully we can move on next week and get a win. Let's see. So Donphan got Donphan got 4 KOs on his end. Let me pull up the stats. Yeah. Donphan got 4 knockouts, and then Amoongus got the other 2. So the 2 Pokemon I was the least prepared for were the ones that were the ones that ended my chances at winning, and they were the sole survivors in this set. So got to take what we learned here against Marolt and apply it to next week, and then of course the rest of the season in the LDL Evolution League. So thank you for watching. I appreciate anyone who came out to watch our side of the battle. I'll have a link in the description to Marolt's channel so you can check out his version of the battle. He's also going to be putting it up on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see the rest, how we do in the rest of the season in the LDL. And if you want to follow me on Twitter or Twitch, I go by Zemanon. As you can see, that's how it's spelled on the screen, Xeminan. Twitch.tv/Zemanon, and then Twitter, I am at Zemanon as well if you want to message me there. Besides that, this is the Detroit Solgaleo signing off, and we will see you next week.